I'll start because the answer came to me very easily. Thanks, Trish, for the work you're doing, and you spoke so clearly, and you were a real inspiration. I think a big moment in my life was when I went to college. I was not a very good college student, and I really struggled to hang in there, and I didn't know what I wanted to be, and I didn't know what to do with myself, and I barely squeaked out graduating, and not without being on academic probation and all kinds of things for a long time. But I had one professor who somehow saw something in me. He had faith, and he called me in his office and he said, I think you should apply for graduate school to be a social worker. And I just thought that was hilarious because here I had barely graduated from college and felt really incapable and stupid. And I kind of just said, well, are you kidding? They'd look at my grades and they would never take me. And he said, yes, but once you found psychology and sociology and your grades just really came up, and I think they would overlook your struggles. And so he made me promise that I would apply. And it was the last thing I wanted to do was more college. But because he was so sweet and thoughtful and, really championed me, I said, okay, I'll go for the interview. And if they accept me, I'll go for you. And so I went for the interview, and even in the office, I was kind of tearful and just like scared. And they accepted me. So I went to graduate school to get a master's degree in social work, and it kind of changed my life. So I would have to say that the ability to come through was because of this wonderful professor who really championed me and saw something and inspired me to go for it. So I guess the moral of my story is we really need each other. We can't do it alone.
That's beautiful, Libby. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, who's next? Anyone want to follow that one? Anita. You need to unmute yourself.
Wrong thing. Okay.
There you go.
It's not exactly defeated, but like up against so much, like all odds. It was when there were a couple things that had me take on the field of women's leadership, and now it's men and women in partnership. But I remember being in a transformational course, and the big question was, what's your vision that's bigger than you've ever had before? And my vision was to be able to transform organizations and to have them be much more customer focused and have people really love their work. And when I looked at what I just didn't know how to do that. And a friend of mine, a successful consultant, had said that I asked him what was he looking at in order to find this bigger vision. And he said, I'm looking for what's the missing piece. And he said, for me, it's what would have me get up bright and energetic in the morning. And so I looked at what's the missing piece to have this life that I want, and what is that? What would my work look like if it was a full expression of who I am? And then what occurred out of that was, oh my God, I'd be a fully expressed woman. And I said to myself, oh, I'm not going to take that on. I'm not going to take on that feminist stuff. That's really dangerous. That's like when you talk about gender in those days, it was like lighting a match to gasoline. That was my image of this. And then I looked again and I said, well, I consider myself to be a master of service. Maybe I could be of greater service by rocking the boat a little. And maybe I could take that on, because it was so against my grain to speak counter to what pleases people. And then the third piece of this was one of my friends had just returned from a trip to Africa, and she was showing me pictures of the women in Africa that she had encountered, that she'd seen, and I had this image of these women getting by, being women and having their families with just what they had, what they were wearing, and what their grass hut. And because I had been concerned with all the trouble that I was going to get into, that how would I earn a living? How could I earn any money? And I held those women in Africa. I said, if they can get by, I can get by. If I can have as little as they have, and I can get by in order to do what I wanted to do. So what brought me to tears when we had our first Global Women's Leadership training. One more sentence. The women from Africa brought me sandals that I was able to stand in their shoes, and here they brought me a pair of sandals, and I'd been standing in their shoes. And it was just, I knew that was the completion of the vision for me. And I've been on this track ever since.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Who's next? Wendy. You need to unmute yourself, yeah.
Here we go. This was a hard one. And well, first of all, I want to express appreciation to Trish and the amazing work she's doing in two amazing spheres. And I just love hearing also how they came together, the young people and the wildlife. I'm thinking of a time where my last marriage ended, and I didn't know, how I was going to manage or how I was going to go on. And I went back to my guitar. I hadn't played that in many, many years. And I went back to that, and then found other people to do music with, and was in a group, and sang with my group, and found a way to really be very involved with music with my spiritual community, and even to the point where I learned to play the didgeridoo, and brought that in. So for me, I think it was going deeper and finding creativity within myself, but also a way to be creative and to go deep in a way that music is so much a part of my spirituality. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Sue.
Thank you, Trish. I feel very inspired, actually. And, your question, when you feel defeated, what did you do, right? For me, that's the here and now. When Trump got elected, I really spiraled down pretty far. It was pretty, and I'm still pretty upset about it. So that was kind of my question. That's how I'm feeling right now in this country, is defeated. And it kind of circles back to my check-in when I was talking about the Science March. Because I think that participating in the Science March, or in the marches, the value, at least for me, is I feel inspired, I feel connected, I feel that I feel some hope from these marches. And I think that that's part of what I'm doing right now about this feeling defeated. And just this kind of talk and being inspired by people like you, Trish, who have kind of really addressing some of the foundational problems in our society. I couldn't help but think with the last name, when you were talking about, in Kenya, you want to know the second name. And as soon as you know the second name, you categorize them. And it's exactly the same here. You know, as soon as you tell somebody your name, right, then you're either you're African American, or you're Jewish, or you're, you know, German descent, or you're Muslim, or whatever. There's a lot of information. There's Hispanic, you know, all this categorization happens just from the name. And I think that especially like the Science March, what was inspiring about it was that it went beyond that. It was like we're one world, we have one earth, and we have one world. And to lose animals. Am I at 3 minutes already?
No.
Oh, okay. You know, when you think about this idea of losing species and species going extinct, and you know, that's so much further beyond one tribe or one country. I mean, it's an impact that's going to affect the world forever. So I really would like to, you know, get more involved in your work and find ways to support your work. And also just continue to try to stay connected. I think that's the most important thing to do when we feel defeated, is not to, you know, dig a hole and crawl in, which is sort of what I did for the first few weeks after that election, but to really stand up and connect to other people. So that was my thoughts.
Thank you, Sue. I can relate so much to what you're saying. Okay, who's next? Anne, looks like you're next.
Thank you all for your sharing, and thank you, Trish, for the question. It's interesting, like what immediately arises. And for me, the feeling of defeat, I actually felt very young, you know, very, very young, probably elementary school. And I felt that I just spoke a different language than everyone else. And my refuge was the garden. And it was a place where I just felt at home. And for me, I think silence has just been that powerful place where the communication happens. And that's where I think animals, I feel this such gratitude to be in relationship with animals and wild animals, in the sense that, you know, it doesn't matter. You don't have to rationalize it, but there's just that knowing within. And it took me a long time to kind of come to peace with that, and to realize that what I really love is I also love working with youth, and I love being with children. They're so close to the truth, and to give them, to create a space where they're safe. And that's what I learned so powerfully with Steve at the sanctuary is where children can just be on the land. They can trust nature and, of course, animals, and they learn to trust humans again. So that's been a profound journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you very much. Ofu, looks like you'd like to speak next. You need to unmute yourself, brother.
Thank you very much, Ari. It's been a long time.
Good to see you, man. It's been a long time. Yeah.
Yes. Actually, Trish, I'm so inspired. Your story is so inspiring, and I continue to point you as one of the exemplars of brave women of Africa. I'm so proud of you, Trish. We have so much things in common in our struggle for creating a better community for African youth for our generations to come. Coming to your question, was the time in my life a situation that I may feel defeated, not necessarily defeated, but challenged and provoked. You said something very striking. Governance or leadership, political leadership, or the community, or voting from a tribal line, or governance from a tribal line. This is kind of a situation for me. Not necessarily that I feel defeated, but provoked and challenged. As a peace activist, I have several situations here in Côte d'Ivoire and also in Nigeria, because I was in Nigeria for 3 months ago. I learned so many things politically, socially that is going on there regarding the Biafrans, pro-Biafrans in that situation, which I studied. But here in Côte d'Ivoire, it's also a similar situation whereby you see your fellow human beings where their rights are violated. And you, as a peace builder who invests your energy, your time, your resources to bridge relationships, to create hope that a better future is possible. When you see politically, the politicians are not helping matters, and it seems you are challenged to continue pushing more and pushing and pushing and pushing. I think for me, the situation doesn't weigh me down, but it keeps me stronger to know that I must continue in the struggle, and I continue to pushing, to pointing hands to a greater future, awakening the heart of the Ivorian youth and in general African youth that is privileged to listen to me, that a better future is possible when we are together in harmony, manifesting compassion to each other, through listening to each other, which is what we are doing to invite everybody from every context, from every political spectrum, affiliation, or cultural diversity of backgrounds, to understand our commonness, that we are humans, for us to be together, that we can redirect history and create a more harmonious society for the security of our generations to come. So just to conclude, this is a situation for me, not defeated, but provoked and challenged. So that's just what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ofu. So glad you could join us. Let's see. Who else would like to, speak? Len, okay, you're ready.
I must say, in listening to everybody, I realize that, like probably most people, I've been in many dark spots. And I realize that I have not overcome any of them by myself. We really need each other. And I have always had mentors and champions and angels in the form of people come into my life, for which I am eternally grateful and try to thank those people whenever I can. I remember when I was a freshman in dental school, and I walked out of the lab and into the clinic where upper class men and women, not many women then, actually, were in the clinic treating real patients. And I thought to myself, I can't do that. I could never do that. And I imagine, in terms of wildlife, it was like a caterpillar seeing a butterfly and saying, I can never be that. So I think that has been the story of my life, but it has always interested me to be that, to be more. So, and the second and last thing I think about is all the crises that have come up as we have worked to bring people together, adversaries, even enemies together. And when we were working with the Soviets, I remember that the Russians shot down an American passenger plane because they sensed that it was approaching or over their own territory. And I thought the world was going to come to an end because we had built all these relationships with the Soviets. And And they were getting ready to close the Soviet consulate in San Francisco. And I said, the world, this is it. It's over. This peace process is over, and we're headed to nuclear war. And then with Israelis and Palestinians, an Israeli would gun down and kill 29 Muslims at prayer in Gaza, and then the Israelis would bomb the Palestinians mercilessly, and back and forth. But always I held on to principles. Our past experience of successes, of the people we met, and the principle, knowing that we're all one. We are one. And deep inside, people know that. And people want to return to union, to build a blessed community and enact it around the planet. I always return to those principles and to the prophets and even the biblical traditions. So, yes, that's how I've come through as much as I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And you do return to principles, and that message that from you is so consistent to all of us. And thank you. So, Bradley and Steve, which one of you guys would like to go next?
Well, we can save the best to last, so I'll go now.
Okay, Bradley.
Pardon any background noise. I'm driving right now. So I liked what Ofu said about challenges. Actually, about being defeated or just being challenged. I think I think back to the last time I really felt like, this isn't what I want. It was in my current job, a different assignment within my current school, so a different position, but same job I'm at. And I'd been doing this for like 8 years, this one position I had, and that just 8 years that I just didn't enjoy it. So what I tend to do, and I did this even when I was younger, if I'm feeling personally defeated, I just leave the situation. I just quit. I don't know if that's the best way to handle it, but it certainly it was my go-to sort of thing. It's like, okay, I'm not feeling this, and I have to leave it. And then what I think Glenn said about needing other people, and I realized that nothing that I do or it's not about anything that I did. It's about maybe the right people. Like what Tu said yesterday, the right people seem to arrive at the right time. And now I don't feel defeated on a daily basis, but I certainly feel challenged on a daily basis. When I just, I wonder over how things have changed. I think today is around the anniversary of the riots in LA. And I was listening on NPR this morning, and they quoted Rodney King, and how when he said so passionately, it's like, can't we all just get along here? And then I wonder how much of, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And now how I deal with, I guess, is I try to get more involved politically, and although I didn't get to the march yesterday, I've been to a few immigration marches, and been into San Francisco to deliver petitions to Feinstein, and just sort of, to try and, if I want to see something changed, I guess I have to start trying to do it myself, or maybe not trying to do it, but trying to get involved, and to try and be the change that I wish to see. And I guess that's kind of where I'm at now. So thank you, Trish, for this beautiful call, and I'm looking forward to going to school tomorrow morning and teaching my students and telling them about you and what you're doing. So thank you.
That's beautiful. All right. Maybe they can join on change too, huh?
Yes,
so thank you
maybe they should join Mimini Change.
I love it. Okay, Steve, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, man, your turn.
I know I can feel why Trish is asking that question because we're out in the world and we're really, Trish is a visionary. And when we're out there as a visionary, we are like 4 or 5 steps. We've been through the beginning and middle, and we're 4 or 5 steps beyond what people can see and be aware of and understand. And so a lot of times we get frustrated and think that nobody's listening. How do we do this? How do I continue? The funding is not coming in, or the funding's not coming in fast enough. And what we have to do is go back to the source that brought us to the point of where we are as a human being at this point in our lives. If you're having doubts about it, go out and talk to the elephants. Go out and talk to the cheetah and the Cape hunting dogs and these wonderful creatures that you want to share with, that you want to save. Go sit in a classroom and talk about animals with the kids. That will give you the energy to go on, because you start to realize that it looks like everybody's against you, and maybe a lot of people are for political purposes or whatever, but you have to just stick to your core of who you are, what brought you into this world to this point, and be assured that it's not going to abandon you. That light that we have, that energy that we have inside, the focus that we have that enables us to do things that we never thought we were able to do before, is always there, and it's always accessible. But sometimes we cloud over and we forget. So we just have to go back to the source. What excited you about wanting to help humans? What excited you about wanting to help animals? What excites you about connecting both of them so we can go forward in this world and make positive change before our lives are over, because this life goes by pretty fast.
Wow. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for being present in the conversation. Well, has everybody else except me gone? Is there anybody else who hasn't gone yet? I think everybody's spoken. So I'll share my piece. I want to time myself here as well. Thinking about your question, Trish, by the way, I also want to say, it's just inspiring to hear you and to hear everybody else's inspiration as well. And Anne, I was relating to what you were saying, actually. In my childhood, too, I had that kind of experience that I was different from everyone. In the 1950s, growing up in New Jersey, I didn't do sports. And every single other guy in the school did sports. So I was like weird. Later on, I got into wrestling, and I could show them who could pin someone down. But I didn't do sports. So what was I going to do to sort of have friends, right, in high school? So I decided, rather than play football, what I was going to do was bring people together to talk to each other. Oh, my God. And my best friend, his family, they were communists. And this is in the U.S. in the 1950s, where if you were a communist, someone would come and want to shoot you. And my family, they were a Republican business family, right? So we have the Republican business family way on this end. We have the communists way on this end. My parents didn't want me to hang out and talk with them, but we enjoyed talking politics. So we thought, wow, what if we get all our high school friends together? It doesn't matter. You can be right, you can be left, it doesn't matter. Let's talk to each other. So we started doing that. We had the Democrats, the Republicans, the John Birchers, the communists, and we decided to publish a newspaper. And we used Voltaire's quote on our newspaper, right? Here we are, 11th graders, right? And we, I disagree with every word you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And we put that on our newspaper, and everybody got to say whatever their opinion was, all the students. So then we were giving it out for free, and I went into the principal's office and put it on his desk. And he looked at me and said, "Communist opinions in this paper? You can't do that. If you do that, we're going to throw you out of school, and your career is going to be ruined." So, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? So it turns out that some of us had friends whose parents were on the school board. So we were able to talk to the parents on the school board, and we got things. They said, no, you're not getting thrown out of school. So we published a second edition where there were even more opinions, and everybody was expressing their view and reading and thinking about each other's views. And then I took that paper and I put that on the principal's desk and walked out of his room. And he couldn't touch us. We were there. And what we did is we opened up this closed situation to free speech. And we said, everybody's view matters and it's important. And if we can hear each other, maybe we can, we can help make the world better. And that was when I was 16 years old. And I guess I've been doing it ever since.